Morning, Mr. Reyes.
Morning, sir.
Okay. For all intents and purposes, this is going to be the April 21st meeting of the Public Safety Committee. I'm Jack Weiss, President are Ed Reyes, Greg Smith, and Dennis Zine. Colleagues, we have a number of items that we can do on consent today. Item 4, Harbor Boosters Association, can be on consent?
Yep.
Okay, that's approved. Number 6, Dennis Zine and his paints. We're just asking the city attorney to draft an ordinance. Is that okay?
Yep.
Number 8, big badges. Big badges on consent.
I got a question on that, though.
What's your question?
The requirements.
The requirements.
I know they want to change the date from January '93.
Yeah, this gives
No,
a bigger number of officers, bigger badges, who aren't officers anymore.
okay, the eligibility.
These are your friends.
Okay, that's
These are your friends.
okay.
They want bigger badges. They really appreciate it.
I just want to make sure there's eligibility. There is. Okay.
Okay, that's approved on consent. Number 9 is an account. Cool with that, everybody?
That's fine.
All right. We're going to hear the DNA item, and then, Mr. White, if you could switch the tape, and we'll do the call the LA Ricks item as the second item. So first, their DNA report, please.
Police Department to present verbal report relative to the status of DNA testing, backlog, and cold hits.
All right, DNA report the day the mayor releases the budget, and we'll see if the mayor has done the right thing. Or all right. Good morning.
Good morning. Yvette Sanchez-Owens, LAPD. So far for the year, we have 6,954 rape cases in the property room that have not been requested for analysis. Let's see, we have 272 that were booked in so far this year, since January 1. And of those, 189 have not yet been requested for analysis.
Thank you.
Bless you. For 2008, so far we've analyzed 221 rape kits, and we've screened 206. All cases in progress for screening are 102 at this point, and for profiling, 125. So far this year, we've had 93 hits, cold hits.
Okay. Lieutenant.
Good morning. Lieutenant Morris, Robbery Homicide Division, LAPD. Our stats for this year versus last year, we've had a total of 96 CODIS hits versus 91 same time last year, and that's a 6% increase. Homicide hits, we've had 7 versus 8 for a 13% decrease, and cold case homicide is handling 14% of those. Sexual assault hits, 54 versus 46 of last year. That's a 17% increase, and cold case sexual assault is handling 70% of those hits. Other hits, burglary, robbery, and other is 5% decrease for a total of 35 versus 37 of last year. And of the total 96 CODIS hits, RHD is handling 41% of those. And no success stories. These last couple of weeks, we are awaiting extradition on 2 suspects, one on the Mura case and the other one on the 1983 murder investigation of Diana Michaels. We're awaiting extradition on the suspect from Virginia.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for that update. Colleagues, do you have any questions for Mr. Zine?
Case backlog is down. It wasn't over 7,000 before?
Yes.
Where have they all gone?
Well, we're slowly chipping
Well, no,
away
but no, she said that 6,900 have not been requested. They have about 7,500 total kits. So
Yes,
that the
that's
numbers.
Okay, no, that's
so-
what I was looking at.
I don't think I gave you that number.
Okay.
Last week, we reported 7,554 cases.
Right.
This week, 7,478 cases total.
So where's the 6,954? That's just the rape?
That's the number of kits that have not been requested
Okay.
yet.
All right, okay. Because I knew the number went down dramatically, so,
Yes, we've been working hard, and Mr. Weiss's grant is helping us tremendously.
very good.
But still, it's about 7,500, 7,400 total kits. That was so that really isn't, there's some difference, but not
Okay.
much. Well, thank you very much for the report, and we'll all cross our fingers on your funding. Thank you all very much. Mr. White, if you could change the tape, we're going to call the LA RICS item, which is the special meeting. And I asked the folks, is it, I guess it's ITA and fire and CAO. As Mr. White is changing the tape, colleagues, this is a staffing matter before us, right, Ms. Huber?
Yes.
It's a staffing matter. We're not going to, the purpose of the item is not to go into all the nuts and bolts of the interoperability issue.
No.
But are we good to go, Mr. White? All right, he's going to push another button.
We'll do number 3 after this.
Yes.
You're ready to go.
Okay. Take it away, Ms. Huber.
Okay. Patty Huber from the CAO. The report before you recommends the authorization of 4 resolution authorities to staff the LA RICS project. It's to put together the city's project team. To date, we've had people working on it on a part-time basis, but a project of this complexity really needs full-time resources to ensure that we are looking at all of the issues and ensuring that this project is going to meet the city's needs as it relates to interoperability. So we're recommending that 1 fire deputy chief, 1 police lieutenant, 1 senior communications engineer, and 1 communications engineer be authorized for fire, LAPD, and then the last 2 for ITA. We're also recommending that our office be directed to report back in conjunction with the other departments on the overall project in terms of the operation, organization, technological, and fiscal aspects within 45 days. I do need to make 1 technical correction to the report. In recommendation 2, we refer to recommendation 2, and we should be referring to the positions in recommendation 1.
Okay, Chief, Mr. Joe, anything that you want to add on that? Again, it's a complex and critically important project for the whole region, but the purpose of this transmittal today is to deal with the staffing issue. Any questions on that?
I got a question regarding,
Zion.
I know it's paid for by the Urban Security Initiative.
Yes.
Now, will this be a backfill for the deputy fire chief? In other words, someone comes out, now we're making promotions along the way of the fire chief, the deputy fire chief, police lieutenant too?
Correct.
That's what happens? So we're going to make promotions?
There
It's
would,
going to come out of the general fund? So while you say there's
but
no
those
cost to
positions are already funded by the general fund.
the current position?
The current positions. For instance, Chief Keen is working on this project. He's being paid for by the general fund. So whoever backfills him in his assignment will continue to do that work and be general funded. However, assuming Chief Keen gets this new deputy chief position, which we would hope since he's been doing a lot of hours on this project, the UASI would then pay for that. So it's no net impact to the general fund.
If I could maybe comment also, Councilman Zine, the backfill in these positions would be new promotees, so they would start at the bottom step. So in essence, the general fund would actually see a savings for a few years as those people work through their steps.
I just know that with the budget and the mayor's issues and the concern on personnel and resources, et cetera, that we stay in line with the wishes of the mayor on that. And so you're doing the position now?
Yes, sir, weekends and when I can find time here at work.
There haven't been any fires lately, so it's been pretty mellow.
There's always fires, Councilman Zine. We just do a good job of keeping them under control out there in the street. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I had.
Mr. Reyes?
So these positions, were they as a result of something that wasn't expected as you're going through your planning and through your assessment of your systems? How did this come about? I just need to understand.
Yeah.
The positions basically we're asking for at this time is just that I think is the evolution of the project has just brought us to the point where we need full-time staffing to address. The project has progressed. As you know, we've been before council in 2005 when you initially approved the conceptual study. Then we came back in 2006, and the council approved us to go out and seek funding, which we did. Last year, in May, the council approved the joining of the Joint Powers Authority. And so all of these, it's a large project, it's a regional project, involves all 88 cities in the county. So now we're at the point where we really need to get focused on our technical requirements, completing the request for proposals and getting that out on the street. And without full-time staffing, as Patty said, we're just not going to make sure that the city gets what it best needs and what the region needs. We can't run a project of this scope part-time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Yes, I have a request, and Mr. Parks has some comments too that I want to. First of all, I think we need to take a look at this over budget finance for one reason, and that is we need to tie the UOSI grant, and that goes to that committee. Make sure that there's a tie-in there, that they are funded properly through that grant. And we've been asking, actually, I think over in that committee for months to get some accounting from all the grant stuff that's going through the mayor's office. We haven't got it. So if we could have this go over there, to just take a look at that and make sure that those things are tied together. And that, too, that the CLA be part of this process as well, be put on the oversight committee. So we have our CLA staff taking a look at that as well.
Our office has been involved with this.
Okay. So officially, we'll put them on the oversight committee.
As part of the JPA.
Name, Anne-Marie.
Oh, sorry. Anne-Marie Sauer with the CLA. Yes, at this point where we're at with the Joint Powers Authority, the CLA does have a seat to represent the council. So that has not been finalized. We're still working it out, but we do have representation.
Right. The city's representation on the Joint Powers Authority is the police chief or his or her representative. Same with the fire department, our CAO, and our CLA. So we have 4 seats on the Joint Powers Authority.
Okay.
So what would you like, Mr. Smith?
We just sent it over to Budget and Finance to make sure we see the UOSI information at the same time, so the whole thing's tied together.
What is is there a timing issue with respect to these staffing requests, Ms. Huber, that is?
The sooner that we can get a project team on board, the better the city will be, because the technical requirements for the RFP are in process now. And so it would be helpful for the departments if they had full-time staff dedicated to this project. The UOSI report is in the mayor's office in terms of the funding for all the city UOSI activities and funding for these positions. We did confirm
But in that
they
respect,
are moving it forward.
the budget's coming out today, but is these 4 positions in the 09-10 budget then for regularizing the positions?
We would not recommend that they be regularized. We would recommend that they stay on resolution authority since they are tied to the grant.
Yeah.
And the report actually recommends that they be authorized again next fiscal year.
But are you putting them in the budget then for next year?
They would be in the UOSI budget, not the city budget. The UOSI is carried off budget for the most part.
Mr. Chair, I have another question on this.
One second. So, Mr. Smith, you want it to go to Budget and Finance?
Yeah, well, Mr. Parks has requested, and I think we need to make sure all those elements, 'cause we're looking at it from the operational issues here. They look at it from the nickels and dimes.
And it's fine. I guess my only question would be for you: are you the vice chair of budget, or you're the acting deputy conceivable vice chair? But since the chair of budget's not here,
Chair in waiting.
yeah, that's my hope. But if there's a way for you to use all that influence that you're accruing, just to get it scheduled, because I know Mr. Parks isn't here.
We'll get it on right away.
Okay,
Yeah,
Mr. Zine.
One of the
Chief,
issues.
Chief.
Yeah.
1 second, Mr. Zine.
One of the issues with timing is one of the grants, the federal grants that was specifically came out for interoperability, $22.3 million was awarded to Los Angeles. That grant has to be completed, the work has to be done and paid for by no later than September 30th of 2010. The state administers that grant for the federal government, so they've backed it up 60 days. We're right at the point where, as you can imagine, to complete an RFP, release it, review it, award a contract, and get some work done, we're right on the edge. So anything we can do with your help,
Yeah.
obvious with the appropriate review, but please with your help, we would appreciate it.
We'll see if we can get on next Monday's agenda.
Yeah, the other thing I just want to note is, I think, Mr. Zine, you have this in your committee tomorrow. Personnel? You have a meeting tomorrow?
Wednesday, not Tuesday.
Okay. So Mr. Zine's here. So if it's,
Tuesday? Tuesday? That was Wednesday.
Mr. Zine, you're the chair of personnel.
We changed it. You know what, we recently changed, it used to be Wednesday. But you know what? It is tomorrow.
They'll wheel you in there tomorrow, Mr. Zine.
It used to be Wednesday.
Dennis won't be there, but it's going to be tomorrow.
Oh, we changed it, because
So,
Mr. Parker
in-
changed it. He couldn't make the commitment, so anyway.
So in light of that, if there's a way to get this, all
It's tomorrow afternoon.
right.
All right, we'll hear this tomorrow.
faster than
Personnel.
Well, Monday is when we start the special hearings. I don't think you guys are having a regular meeting, so I think that's the concern in terms of expediting this through to council.
You can have budget hearings.
Starting.
Is there a way, Mr. Smith, that whatever the questions are that you have about tying into UASI, if those could be formulated with the CAO and the CLA and presented to Mr. Zine for his committee,
Okay.
that way, at least those questions could be done and this could be
Yeah.
swept through the process of
We'll
special.
fix that somehow.
Okay.
Thank you. You done with that one?
Yeah.
I have another issue that came up on page 7. First-year general fund obligations estimated $173,000. Then it talks about a $5.5 million match, and it also talks about the facility. If we use the FIG Plaza, we can save money from leasing county space. What about that issue? It hasn't been brought up yet.
One of the recommendations is to direct GSD to identify space for for these positions within city resources, so that we don't have to pay for a lease.
And that'll save us $16,300 a year. And there's another annual recurring general fund costs are estimated $20,000 a year, including lease space. So if we save $16,000, then the general fund hit will only be $4,000, according to this. So there is a minor impact on general fund.
Well, we're hoping to use existing city space in order to eliminate any need for leasing. But we would anticipate, if possible, we would cover that with UASI if it's allowable, and that's what we have to double check.
What it states here in the report is that general fund obligations estimated $173,343. And then it says if we use city space, we're going to save $16,360.
If we can
So
get
there's still $173,000 that they're talking about general fund. What is that all about?
A good part of UASI is management and administration, Councilman, and there's 3% allowed that covers those types of things, which is in that dollar amount you're talking about. The mayor's office typically uses that 3% for the staffing they need to overall manage the grants. Next year's UASI, 60% of that entire award, the region has decided will go towards this project, and the mayor's office is working on taking that 3% of M&A for this project and moving it into it. So it could be that next year's UASI, $40 million would be moved into this project, and $3 million of management and administration to cover those issues would be there. Yeah. Mayor's office is working on that right now. So what we're doing is, in every possible way, trying to relieve any general fund obligation on the city. Also, with regards to the match can be hard or soft. There's a $5.5 million match. The county's taking half of that, and the city's taking half. But what we're using for our match is at the new fire dispatch, EOC, and police command center over here. There's a communications building that's under construction, and a new radio tower has been put up, and that's our $2.75 million that'll match that. So it's actually coming out of the Prop Q bond for the match.
So you're whittling it down, so there's not a whole lot of general fund.
Yes, sir. Our effort is to get that down to zero.
And then also on the facility, if we can save that,
Yes, sir.
put it in, it's a room in Fig Plaza?
We're going to be working with GSD to identify space. There may be space in Fig Plaza, but
I
I'm not
recall on the
positive.
stacking plan of Fig Plaza, it wasn't until about next year that we'd have open, 2 to 3 years out, that we'd have open space.
Well, there's the Public
From
Works building
clients.
down on Broadway, and there may be space down there. It's the other building that we purchased.
One of the things we're looking at temporary, and the reason Fig Plaza's come up, is Prop F, the fire and animal bond, is winding down. There has been already some staff reductions there that has opened up some space. So for example, I think today we could move these 4 people in there at no cost. The phones are still there, the computer connections are there, the furniture's in place. I think we could just move over there and use it, but we'll work with the CAO and General Services to square those things away.
Okay, it's all about saving money.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
also in doing a good project.
Yeah, absolutely, that's a part of it, that's the big part.
All right, so onward to personnel and then onward to council with this item. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you very much.
Mr. White, then now you need to change the tape back. While Mr. White is doing that, I'd like to ask the clergy council folks to come forward, please.
You're right about that one.
Pastor? Oh, what item is it? My bad. We'll do, I told you, you're right. Went from 1 to 10 to 3.
Sounds like
I did skip over item 2, but item 3 you win. Okay. All right.
Somebody's praying real hard for item 3 to go first. so.
Exactly. Mr. Reyes asked me about item 3.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Good morning. We're hearing item 3 on the clergy council. Mr. Reyes, do you want to open us up, or do we want to hear from Rabbi, the pastor?
Why don't we introduce ourselves, and then let me make some preliminary comments, and then we'll respond to your questions.
Sure.
Lieutenant Doug Miller, Community Relations Section.
I'm Rabbi Alan Freeling. I'm the Executive Director of the Human Relations Commission.
Gary Della Rosa, Human Relations Commission.
Reverend Howard Dotson, First Congregational Church.
Because of a particular incident which occurred in Councilmember Reyes's district, we were called upon, the Human Relations Commission was called upon to do some research and analysis with reference to clergy councils within LAPD. In turn, we tasked a couple of members of our field team who are accustomed to doing this kind of research to meet with the people from LAPD and others in the community. And of the two, Gary De La Rosa is here this morning to respond to any questions that you might have to a report that you received a little bit earlier this month. Perhaps Gary may want to give you some highlights of that which he and Elizabeth Macias discovered.
Sure. Well, if you've gone through the report, pretty much, I think the most important piece to understand is that the Clergy Council isn't necessarily a part of a rollout crisis unit. Okay, it's there for support, it's there for help. It's there to help LAPD interact with communities as well, but it's not there for the initial emergency. Indeed, that's why you have the crisis response team. I think another piece that's important to note is, though it's been rather informal in terms of who can be involved, and the Lieutenant, I'm sure, can address this, my understanding is that LAPD is now looking to make it more formalized and have every division have a clergy council involved with it and clarify exactly what it is that they do, can't do, et cetera. Lieutenant, do you want to address that?
Yes, we find it to be very valuable. For instance, last year when 30-day whole impound issue, Special Order Number 40, Police Clergy Council, information to the community. The chief has at least 2 police forums in terms of the clergy per year, allows all the clergy throughout the city to come together to discuss issues pertinent to what's going on in the community, a lot of feedback, dispelling rumors. So in terms of a project, he's correct. Office of Operations is now doing a project where every division within the city will have a formal police clergy council, so that way there will be guidelines, there'll be a chain in terms of events, in terms of personnel involved, that type of thing. So now the actual situation will be formalized.
Well, first I want to say thank you for your efficiency, your support. Every time we had meetings, they were present and followed with my staff. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your focus on this. When we look at this rollout, what makes up this rollout team? What functions would describe this team that's being contemplated, and how would the clergy element fit into that? Is that something that's evolving? Is there a concept? How are we addressing that?
That's not really a concept per se. For instance, there's an incident in a division where there's a homicide, and that homicide's victim or persons involved are really in an emotional state in terms of the family, friends, coworkers, and so on and so forth. That watch commander, that commanding officer, that captain will make a decision to call out the crisis response team. they are the ones that have formal training, formal experience in terms of the ability to deal with those issues. Now, in terms of that person requesting a clergy counsel of their choice, we would assist them too in that matter, and that would be someone possibly either our police chaplain or someone in the division that has the ability to contact a chaplain and a person of their choice, and that's what would occur.
And just for the sake of clarity, the emergency response team individual is also an LAPD officer?
No. There's the crisis response team is attached to the mayor's office. Jeff Zimmerman is its director. He has, in turn, a considerable number of people who will volunteer to be part of the crisis response team, whom he then trains. And therefore, when there's an incident and he receives a call from a particular captain, commander, or whomever, he knows which people in the crisis response team live near enough that he can roll them out as quickly as possible. Some of these people may be clergy, but that would be incidental. In other words, they volunteered not only to be members of the clergy council, but have also stepped forward for training in the crisis response team. But keep in mind that you're talking about two separate entities.
And just as a FYI, the crisis response team unit, the folks that are trained, is 10 weeks worth of training.
Okay, so the changes that are being contemplated, this crisis response team will continue in its current makeup and function. Will that change in the future?
As he said, Councilman Reyes, the police clergy council is separate from the crisis response team.
Okay,
The
so
police
that's
clergy.
the third element.
Yes.
Okay, so then that begs the question, what qualifies or who is qualified to become a member of this clergy?
Actually,
council?
what Gary and Elizabeth discovered is you could be a member of the clergy council if you wish to, because there are members of clergy council who are not members of the clergy, strangely enough.
So,
Well, as a volunteer
but that is
unit-
the problem that we had
Yeah.
in my district, where you had individuals who assume certain roles, project a certain authority, influence people that are in their most vulnerable state, and the quality and the integrity and the purpose of that a person's actions makes someone very susceptible to abuse, I believe.
That was my concern with the 6 divisions not having clergy councils. And I've observed that the first week after homicide is where I see a lot of lack of resources for the victims' families, and that the crisis response team goes out that night or is at the hospital, and they ask, would you like, are you of a particular faith, would you like your priest or rabbi, imam here? And in that crisis, they say no, often, because they're just in that storm. And then often it takes a week to 10 days for the body to be released. And so these families aren't getting a ritual until then, and often there's a gap. And so I was looking at the clergy councils as a way of being a resource to crisis response, and now with the restructuring with Jeff Carr's office, and I've been asked by intervention specialists to help, when there's a conflict, to de-escalate a conflict, so that when you have the clergy council members, whether they're laity or clergy, they have been vetted in a way by the community relations office. They know who they can refer to crisis response and to Jeff Carr's office, people they've worked with, versus it being willy-nilly whoever steps up into the gap. That's when you get the problems with people that could not be the best folks to be there. And I think also I just saw this in West LA after 1 homicide, 3 shootings in La Cienega Heights, that one of the things that the clergy council needs support is media training, so that you don't have a situation where they're playing junior detective and making comments to the media that don't help. And so that there's, and also for counseling skills, crisis counseling, that there's 10 psychologists on the LAPD staff, that there are people that you could draw into the clergy councils because they feel like they're learning something, it's value added, and then that's someone you can trust, and the community relations office can refer them when a situation comes up.
So it begs the question, where is the most where does the accountability lie when you have an individual who has not been trained or does not have the type of skills that is appropriate for that particular crisis or that moment? Where does that lie? Is that an LAPD? Is it the mayor's office? Is it the council-driven policy? I mean, I don't want to complicate things. I want to make things more efficient, and I'm looking at the community's welfare as a priority here.
Well, my suggestion is that the first line is the Community Crisis Response Team, Jeff Zimmerman, because as has been indicated, they're usually the first on the scene at the request of LAPD. My second comment would be then that as Doug and his colleagues at LAPD are not only insisting that every district have a clergy council, but as they're perceiving this, that they draw up the criteria in terms of not only who belongs to the clergy council, and I would suggest that the laity not be included, but secondly, that their responsibilities and the way they are to function be laid out. I know that in certain instances, one size doesn't fit all, but it seems to me in this particular instance, the kind of uniformity that you're looking for and the kind of consistency that you're looking for really would be the demanding factor that LAPD very carefully lay out. What are the responsibilities of those people who belong to the clergy council, including possibly the need for some extra training? And the training could be provided by a number of various departments within the city. So that I would say that if in fact the clergy council is tied closely to LAPD, that they probably, LAPD then would be the responsible department at that level. And then, of course, the third level, and I'm not necessarily talking priority, is that there is the expectation that the individual victim's family may have their own clergy, and certainly that person would probably trump the other two because of the relationship. Furthermore, though, it seems to me that there's a responsibility, if at all possible, and that could probably be done as an extension of the clergy council, that if in fact, let's say, for argument's sake, that there's not an imam who is a part of the clergy council of Jack Weiss's district, and if in fact the clergy council cannot find an imam to join the clergy council, at least that clergy council ought to know, or the LAPD ought to know, where can I find that imam at a moment's notice if in fact a member of the Muslim community has suffered a loss.
Also, Councilman Reyes, to interject a little bit, most of the police clergy council have various degrees in terms of their time. Most of them are volunteers. A lot of the police clergy council are part-time clergy people and full-time professionals in other fields. So what it boils down to is I see what it evolves from this is probably the same thing as part of our volunteer program, where they're fingerprinted, a background check is done, and then they're provided some training in terms of police department procedures, maybe like a CPAB, that type of thing. I see that evolving in the future.
But by bringing this to the surface, by putting a light on this, I think in critical role, perhaps we can create a bank of folks and stimulate volunteers. Because right now it's rather, I mean, I wasn't even aware that that whole dynamic existed. And many folks don't understand that there are certain procedures and issues of accountability and even the opportunity to participate in this way. When I look at the numbers of folks that are being killed in the city and I look at the geographic area where it's occurring, then I start looking at the affiliated religions that go with these population bases, being able to create a level of a nexus in terms of if we have X amount of folks of this religion, we should have X amount of advisors or clergy support, so that way there is some continuity and there is some balance as opposed to mismatching what's occurring in the demographic shifts in some of these communities. and perhaps it's about our ability to appeal to the religious organizations and let them know this is what's happening to your constituents, this is what's happening to your congregations, these are the folks that are in your church area or whatever religion. We need your help. But I believe we have to start moving towards a balance, if you will, and that's consistent with these demographic shifts. And I believe this discussion hopefully will lead to that, given what actions we could take. Sir?
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying on that one. And I think we need to realize that part of the outreach has been done by the senior lead officers. So, the folks that they get to know, they bring in, and that's probably on a large part a good piece because they do get to know community folks. But we suggested in the report that perhaps we would be best suited to have someone outreach to organizations that do this kind of work that already, like, for example, Michael Mata at USC about 5-6 years ago did a big report on the religious faith-based organizations and communities in the city of LA. And maybe that's a way to begin to find out who's out there, who's doing what, and begin to make those connections so that LAPD has it, mayor's office has it, you have it, we have it.
Yeah. Also, all divisions now do have a police clergy council. All divisions do.
In your report, what recommendations did you make, or are there any recommendations?
Yes, well, we felt that, number one, that as they develop what the process is, it should definitely be put on the website so others can find out about it. It should be actually, outreach should be done. And then we did make that recommendation that we should look to organizations that have already done this, that have already mapped the city of Los Angeles, that are looking at the demographic changes and the faith-based community needs, and tap into them to help us find out which way to go in terms of who to outreach to, who to connect to, and how to spread the different needs that we have.
If you look at page 4 of what we submitted to you, you'll find at the end some final comments and recommendations.
I'd like to, I don't want to take too much more time because I know we have other items, but this is a very important issue, I think, for probably 5 of the 15 districts where you see a lot of the murders occurring and a lot of the shootings. That's almost, I won't say daily, but it's very consistent. Mr. Chair, I'd like to figure out a way to make sure that what's being stated today is actually being implemented.
Well, then maybe a way to do that would be, I know we can instruct the LAPD to include information on the website. That's
yes.
Part of what's before us. We have a report that what we can do for today, Mr. Reyes, is note and file it, and then we can give you and your staff time to go through it and see if there are any implementation items that you want to bring forward, or we can get, a status update, report backs here at,
Well, let's do this. Let's follow up with the recommendations with the website and I think the other critical recommendation, which is making sure we have a comprehensive list of active faith-based organizations for future use in crisis situations. And then what I'd like to do is follow up with perhaps the mayor's office, Mr. Zimmerman, and yourself, if you would like to, and look at perhaps a policy statement that brings this in a much more formal level, the need to be sensitive as well as constructive in supporting the LAPD during those critical moments, with the understanding that we need to acknowledge the changes that are occurring in our districts, in our communities, in terms of demographic shifts, in all of its complexity. So if I may, perhaps hate to keep bothering you guys, but I like to drill down to a point where we're at a comfortable place, and that we don't leave this with loose ends.
Okay, but let me tell you what I just heard and see if we are in sync.
Okay.
What I just heard is the possibility of the Community Relations Unit from LAPD, Human Relations Commission, and their crisis response team coming up with a policy statement and some recommendations in draft form, which we can submit to you, and you in turn to your colleagues, either for adoption as we submit it or modification. And I think that because of the crisis that we're going to be facing with reference to the outgrowth of the proposed budget, that you ought to instruct us to prepare and submit to you within the next 30 days.
Yes, and fold in the issues that were stated today regarding training and all the specifics that were mentioned.
The only suggestion I would have is also to add Jeff Carr's office to that collaborative, because when I've done candlelight vigils, Jeff Carr and the regional managers are often part of the clergy response. So,
Well, let's give this first draft a shot.
okay.
Let's see where we're at, and we can allow Mr. Carr to review it, and if he has comment statements, he can make it at that time.
Well, Jeff and I are seeing each other early one morning this week anyhow, and I think I'll clue him in.
Okay.
And if he or one of his staff people want to sit in with us, that would be terrific.
Appreciate all your work.
Okay.
Thank you very
We'll
much.
do that. Appreciate the presentation and your passion for the issue. Oh, Mr. Zahn, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. Father Mike McCullough, what's his position with the police department?
Sir,
Father Mike McCullough?
I've met Father Mike McCullough.
Okay, well, he's been around the LAPD for many years. He's a chaplain.
That's different.
Okay, well, they've got so many different programs. There's the chaplain corps, the ones that deal with police officers in crisis. Then they've got the crisis response. Then they've got the clergy council. What they need to do really is identify all of them, including the chaplain corps that's there for officers. Because I go to Devonshire Station, and they got pictures of the different religious representatives from the community, Catholic, Protestant, Jewish. It's inconsistent within the department. And I think what they need to do is, for everyone's benefit, identify so everyone will be on the same page with it. Because Father Mike McCullough, as I understand, was involved in the chaplain corps, and he's been involved in the chaplain corps for many years. Ken Crawford, who's an officer out of Devonshire.
I know Ken Crawford.
Okay, well, maybe Ken could give you some guidelines into that. But I think that if you look at it, for all the religions, it would be beneficial.
Yeah, for a number,
Rabbis involved in
right,
certain...
for a number of years, I was a volunteer chaplain for LAPD in West Los Angeles.
Right.
But as you indicated, our focus was the need of people in LAPD who perhaps needed some clergy support.
Correct.
It wasn't outreach to the community, it wasn't crisis response. The question I guess I would ask you would be, do you think that somehow we ought to ask those people who are members of the chaplaincy corps to also involve themselves when in fact the situation in the community needs their assistance?
I think it'd be appropriate. I think that there's an opportunity there to use that experience. They already have a relationship with the officers. Most officers know them.
Right.
The ones that, well, when you were in West LA, I'm sure the officers of West LA knew you. When Captain Chancellor, now Commander Chancellor, was in West Valley, there was a relationship with the clergy in there. And I think somehow pull it together so when there is a crisis that takes place in a community, they can utilize that as some resource. Because right now it's so scattered.
Right.
Try and pull it together. But I know that Father Mike has been out there for many years with the police officers, and there's been many rabbis involved.
Yes.
Many ministers of other faiths. We just need to somehow identify and bring it all together so everyone will know what's going on, because there's many different layers, all for the same purpose of either helping the police, the civilian employees of the department, or the members of the community. If I've needed a rabbi for something, I will call up the local rabbi, Rabbi Vogel.
Sure.
Rabbi, I need someone for this or that. And now that's just through a relationship I have with them out in the West Valley. Some form of process I think would help everyone.
Right.
That'll be part of our document to submit to you.
Again, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. That'll be-
Thanks.
We're on this. Call item 2.
Item 2, Motion Park Smith requesting that the city attorney prepare an ordinance to modify the city's police hiring bonus program to end the bonus for recruits after the April 2008 class and to provide the bonus to lateral transfers subject to the availability of budgeted funds.
Okay, if we could have, this is the bonus issue. Want to come forward?
Yeah.
Good morning.
The bonus round.
Morning.
I'm Jim Kessler, Commander in charge of Personnel Group with LAPD.
Gloria Sosa, Assistant General Manager, Personnel Department.
Reader's Digest?
The police signing bonus. Before we get into revised motion, I would just like to go back just a moment how we got to this point in time. In January of '07, the mayor announced the police signing bonus. In April of 2007, the EERC approved that and went through Public and Safety Committee, went through Personnel Committee, and on October 23rd of 2007, the City Council approved of the police signing bonus with the understanding that the donor, private donor, who was going to make the donation, that the ordinance would be effective once the monies was received. That occurred in January of '08, and on January 17th of 2008, this ordinance went effective. What the motion is being revised right now is that the sunset clause of March 31st, 2009 be changed to October 31st of 2008. So the last class, recruit class, that would be eligible for this police signing bonus would be the April 28th class that we're about to put in the academy next Monday. Also, a second portion of the revised ordinance would that the lateral officers coming from other police departments, would still be eligible for this police signing bonus with the original sunset date clause of sunset date of March 31st, 2009, with the understanding that this would be based on the budget availability. This was proposed, this motion or this revision of the ordinance was proposed for a couple reasons. One, we all understand fiscal constraints the city is currently under, looking at $400 to $500 million budget deficit for '08-09, along with our surveys have showed since the police signing bonus went into effect, of the 2,400 people that we have surveyed since January 7th, 2008, only 16 have actually said that the police signing bonus was one of their primary considerations why they joined the department. In that survey, there's 5 options that they can give, and only, again, 16 actually said, the police signing bonus is why I made this decision. With that, we looked at our testing.
Maybe those guys should get more money then.
Okay, no.
Make them right away.
Give them the bonus.
With that, our testing has shown that we have done very well. The testing for applicants. For instance, in February of 2008, a couple months ago, we tested 871 police applicants. That's the highest number that we had last fiscal year and the fiscal year prior to that. In March, just last month, we tested 1,011. Again, high numbers. And right now, as of April 17th, we have tested 566. So as you can see, we're going to exceed March's number. Now, one could say, well, that's because of the police signing bonus. But in actuality, our surveys, as I indicated, have indicated otherwise. And that's why we're here to revise the police signing bonus.
Could it be the economy?
Excuse me?
Could it be the economy?
Oh, I would say that's attributed to it, definitely.
And stepped up recruiting. I've seen your people at a lot of public functions lately that I haven't seen them before.
I think it's our recruiters.
Yeah.
I think it's our recruitment strategies. We have been working hand in hand as far as going out to the military bases, college campuses. At least half of our applicants are coming from where the officers actually take the test out to the college campuses and the military. This is about recruitment strategies and effective recruitment strategies. Once a month, we have various recruitment events sponsored by the PD for our targeted groups. I think our recruitment efforts have been successful because of what our staff are doing out there.
Did they stop recruitment at the colleges for a while? Or divert it someplace else?
We didn't stop any recruitment, but what we certainly have done is increase the number of campuses that we're going to, and they're all local, all in the 5 county area. And we go to campuses more than once. But in addition to that, it's not just going out and giving the written test, but it's also doing advanced canvassing, going into the classrooms, doing classroom presentations and job fairs, and saying, we'll be here again doing the written test. So, again, there's some advanced preparation and recruitment before we actually give the written test. So the numbers out there are considerable.
What about the finder's fee? Is that going to remain the $1,000 for
Yes.
finder's fee?
Yes, that has been a very, very successful program. The PORUP, the Police Officer Recruitment Incentive Program, that has been very successful, and it actually also was expanded to community-based organizations and churches, and we're beginning to see that actually take effect as well.
Now, how well is that funded?
Actually, this year we exceeded the amount that we had in our budget, and we were able to transfer over additional funds, and we did request an additional $100,000 in the next fiscal year for that.
Now, there's one thing I don't mind the police department going over budget on.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, so.
So the overall understanding is this motion is something that we can move with, and given the performance of all of your efforts, it really isn't a major factor to eliminate this.
Exactly.
And the money's running out. That's one of the other issues? That grant that was given, the $500,000? Is that one of the reasons why you're...
2 years.
Well, the budget constraints in general,
But
as
this
far,
was donated money, though.
Not all of it.
not all of it.
Not all of it, no.
I thought it was the $500,000,
It didn't pay for the whole thing.
What-
except the $500,000 donation.
We received a $1 million grant from Mercury Insurance. $1 million.
It says $500.
2 years, 5 and 5.
5 and 5?
Right.
But that only,
But
Pay
that
for-
doesn't pay for the entire cost
Right.
of the program. The $1 million does not cover all of the bonus payments.
So when this ends, will there still be money left in that fund? Or
No.
have money?
We actually have to use general funded money to be able to pay for the bonuses. That's why we want to shorten the pilot program by 5 months.
So
The $1 million does not cover the entire program.
No, but you're gonna cut it short, and will there still be money left in that fund when you cut it short, or will it be depleted by then?
It'll be depleted.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we can have a motion to move this forward? Okay, thank you very much.
and one thing, Commander, as we discussed the reserve recruiting, you're supposed to have your people out there that are doing recruiting do both. I've seen them at 3 events lately, and they didn't know anything about reserve recruiting.
With our full-time officers?
Yeah. I thought we were going to do some joint recruiting.
Yeah, and I can say our numbers with the reserves have skyrocketed.
We're up to
Threefold.
like 92 last month, which is unheard of.
That's where that's what it used to be. But I said I saw it at 3 events, and I went up and said I was at the Rose Bowl with the Marines, and I forgot what the other 2 recently were, and they didn't have anything out about reserves.
Okay.
And I said, where's your reserve stuff? And they said, we don't know anything about that.
Okay.
So.
We'll
And
check on that.
Councilman Smith set up the booth, and he started recruiting reserve.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right, folks.
$1,000.
Okay, all right.
From CLA, any items left? Any more items?
Okay. Item number,
Any more items left?
Item 5,
Okay,
and also item 7. Item 5.
let's move item 5.
Fire Department, City Attorney, and CAO reports and ordinance relative to the Fire Department collecting new methane gas-related fees for detection system plan checks, final acceptance inspection, certification program for independent methane gas detection system testers, inspectors, and related actions.
So welcome, staff. Give us your report.
Good morning. Patty Huber from the CAO. This report is recommending establishment of the new methane gas-related fees for detection system plan checks, final acceptance inspections, and a certification program for independent methane gas detection system testers and inspectors, correct?
Correct.
I got it out. This report also recommends that the city attorney be requested to prepare and present the ordinance for the establishment of these fees. In the report, we did mention there may be some revenue in the current fiscal year of a small amount. However, given that it is late April and the ordinance still needs to be prepared and adopted, any revenue to the current year will be minimal. However, it would be revenue for next fiscal year.
So there will be no impact on our general fund with this?
No, sir, this will be fully cost recovered.
Great. Any questions from my colleagues?
How many locations are we talking about? This isn't citywide, is it?
Absolutely, yes.
We have methane citywide?
Yes, sir.
We do have methane
I
citywide.
thought it was only in certain areas.
There's higher concentrations in certain parts, such as Playa Vista, the Mid-Wilshire area, but it is citywide.
Sun
The
Valley.
Valley too?
Yeah, Sun Valley, all the
Yeah,
old dumps.
there is.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're going to charge the new fee, I saw a number here, $940 or $158 an hour?
$158 an hour.
Your names, gentlemen? Your name, please?
Assistant Chief Craig Fry, Assistant Fire Marshal with the Fire Department.
Ronald Jackson, Battalion Chief, Technical Section, Bureau of Fire Prevention.
Thank you.
The $158 is what it costs per hour for our employees to do the plan checks and to do the testing. And the 6 hours where you see the $900 is the 6 hours what it takes to complete the entire testing process.
Okay, so this is in the plan check, all inspection, certifications. So isn't there an annual inspection that the fire department does at these venues? Where they have, like in the Playa Vista, and I went to a restaurant in Farmers Market where they had it on the wall.
That's where the certificate of fitness comes in. The certificate of fitness will give a third party the ability to go out and test these systems on our behalf. They'll take a test, we'll certify them to perform that test, and annually, when the test is due, they will go out and actually perform the test, report back to us with any corrections that are needed.
So that's done by a private vendor?
That's done by a private vendor, and that's what the certificate of fitness program is.
Couldn't we pull that into the city and increase our revenues with having the city crews do
It would
that?
actually be cheaper and more cost-effective to do it through, yes, sir.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
program has been going on for years as part of our Chief Regulations 4 program because we were unable to go out and do all the testings for all the systems that are out there in the city. We started certifying private vendors to go out and do this testing for us.
Are there hundreds or thousands of those units out? Because I know in the valley, I haven't seen any of them. I haven't seen
Not yet. No, there's not hundreds of thousands. We're still in the hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yes.
In just certain pockets of the city?
As of now, yes. But when we get the whole citywide methane ordinance in place, you'll see more of them pop up, and that's due to when they go through plan check, that'll be one of the requirements that'll be required to let us know what the methane levels are in there, and then we'll go from there.
You got promoted?
No, sir, I've been a battalion chief for 7 years now.
Really?
Okay. We have a motion to,
Promotions, I see those stripes coming up.
Talking to Chairman Personnel will get that fixed.
we have a motion to move this?
Moved.
Yes.
Committee members,
Action?
just to verify, you have the ordinance already before you, but you can adopt today, as well as 2 CAO recommendations to send forward to council.
Yes.
So moved. Thank you.
Everything's moved. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Our next item?
Item 7.
Let's come on up, folks.
Board of Police Commissioners report relative to requiring all canines to be secured by their owners in kennels or crates while in the terminal of Los Angeles International Airport.
Have to put Zuma dog in the case.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Captain.
Take it away.
Councilman.
Captain Horace Frank, LAPD.
Captain Horace Frank, Commanding Officer, Emergency Services Division.
Good morning.
Mark Adams, Los Angeles World Airports.
Please proceed with your report.
Go ahead.
Council members, this item has to do with a requirement that all canines to be secured by their owners in kennels or crates while within the confines of the LAX terminal. The problems we've had in the past is individuals who take their dogs to the airport while waiting for flights or visiting with others. They've got the dogs either on leash or even off leash, but during those times where our canine officers and LAX, LAWA PD canine officers have been conducting their duties, and the dogs, the private dogs, have a tendency of either snapping at the officers, which in turn results in the canines, the police canines, aggressively responding because they see the actions by the dogs as an aggressive act upon their owners. So where the police dogs would respond, or the actual private dogs, not necessarily going after the officers, but seeing the police canines snap at them, whether in a friendly manner or not, but the dogs don't see it that way.
Not a good
So,
idea.
Not a good idea. So we've had a couple of instances where that's happened at the airport. So I think in the interest of public safety, this was something that we needed to come up with. One of the concerns that we've had is, individuals, because if this is something some of the officers have a tendency to avoid these situations, not approaching individuals or going anyway, basically avoiding individuals that they see with private dogs. Now, obviously, that's not a situation that we want to encourage, because someone seeing that, people seeing that, would see that as an opportunity to circumvent security and instead just start carrying dogs. So we think this would be an appropriate thing to address that issue.
As indicated in your report, this would exempt certified service guide dogs as well.
Absolutely. Working dogs were exempt, and that would be police dogs, seeing eye dogs, that kind of
Okay, so I want to make sure that was stated on the record.
Absolutely, yes.
Any questions from my colleagues?
Yeah, how do we make public notice to this when people come to the airport? Because I've been on flights when they've had these little dogs.
That's a good question. From the airport's perspective, while we see there may be some public safety benefit to this proposal, we do have questions about enforcement and implementation that we'll work out with the city attorney as this goes forward. As the recommendation here is to send this to city attorney, and there are a lot of questions that need to be worked out, like the one you brought up. And honestly, we just found out about this proposal a couple of weeks ago, and we don't have those answers at this point. So that all needs to be.
Do any other airports have this rule?
Not that we're aware of.
Not that we're aware of, sir, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. We'll
No,
be
I'm saying, yeah, I don't
we'll be
have
certainly
any questions,
we want
but
to look into that for you.
Some lady going to go on a trip, going to take her dog and her kids, and all of a sudden now she's going to be cited for some violation when she doesn't know. And maybe the airline's notified on the tickets, on the websites. I mean, there's got to be some kind of notification.
Councilman, I think an appropriate, certainly an avenue, we've talked about this, is obviously we'd have to have somewhat of a period of time to keep people, a public service announcement. One of the things we do at the airport all the time is we have the constant recordings advising people, you can't park. Certainly we can include that in there, and certainly we can have signs. So there certainly have to be a period of time that we advise the public.
And because people are usually such infrequent visitors to the airport, it makes that concern
See, one of the
even that
problems
much more.
is, since people don't go to the airport every day, if they're going to go on a holiday and they're going to go to the airport and they haven't heard the public announcement, and then they're there with the dog, and there's no place to put the dog, now I see what you're trying to do, but my concern is we need to somehow bring in the airlines, so somehow on the ticket, no animals permitted or animals caged or something, so they know, because you get your ticket, can't take an animal.
Right.
And moreover, because this involves the airport commission and the area that they control, they haven't had a chance to weigh in on this yet. We'd like to have them weigh in on this before council takes final action on this, of course.
So,
go to council when?
So this will be, this will take some time to evolve then. We're looking at,
I understand Mr. Weiss had asked, or agreed to send it over to Trade, Commerce, and Tourism as well.
Okay.
If we can send that over to let
Right.
them maybe deal with some of that. But
Beg pardon? I'm sorry.
Mr. Weiss, Chair of the committee, has also agreed to send it over to another committee, that's Trade, Tourism, and Commerce, which deals with the airport.
Right.
Actually. So
We'll have more discussion.
maybe we can have some more information and discussion with the airlines. I think it's critical.
Absolutely.
Before you schedule over there, maybe, or bring them.
so given how quick we move on ordinances, this could probably take about maybe a year, 2 years?
Understood.
Well, hopefully not.
Okay.
Dog years.
Well, then we'll just give folks the ability to learn about this as we make it more public, on top of everything else. So, any other questions, my colleagues?
And we should also check around the country. I'm sure there's connection between Lawa and other airports to see if anyone else has this and what they've done to implement. If
I
not,
know LaGuardia doesn't, because I was there yesterday, and there's a dog running through the thing and peed on the wall and everything. So
Peed on
it's
the wall.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Okay, guys, let's stick to the
maybe we'll lead the
subject.
nation on this one.
Well, no, it'd be a good idea, but I mean, if it happens here, it's going to happen.
This is
everywhere.
a family station here. Okay.
All right.
Let's move this
Councilman,
forward.
I'd be happy to look into that issue and forward the information to Councilman Weiss's office.
Did you folks deal with the airport at all, or just come up with this idea without consulting the airport folks?
We have been working, if you mean airport as in Lawa Police Department, we've been working very closely with Lawa Police Department on this issue, yes.
But it didn't bubble up from the police
It didn't go from the police to the administration.
to the administration management, yeah.
So we'll move this on to the next committee, and that'll be our action to approve and move forward, and I'll take care of that. So we have 3 votes. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Our next item.
That concludes your agenda.
All right, anybody here for public comment?
None.
Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Get pissy about it.
Yeah. It's only rated G.